The story starts with a young girl named Shomi. She gets stuck in the sea after a boat accident, and her parents sadly pass away. Luckily, a fisherman saves her, and his son, who is about the same age as Shomi, gives her a towel to help her get warm. Shomi is scared and keeps crying. All she has left from the accident is a necklace with a picture of her and her mom. Fast forward 12 years, Shomi has grown up and is now working as an investigator at a law firm. She works for a lawyer named Gao. One day, Gao's friend JK comes to visit him. Even though Gao and JK didn't invite Shomi to their meeting, she could still understand what they were talking about because she's really good at reading people's lip movements. JK came to the law firm to find someone to look into a businessman named Yu Law, who owns a fancy resort on a faraway island. If Yu Law is doing something sneaky, JK wants to take legal action against him, so Gao asked Shomi to investigate Yu Law. Shomi hurried to the Love Yu Island in Malaysia by taking a ferry with a group of couples who were going to get married there. On the way, the ship suddenly got attacked by some pirates, and they even took the bride as a hostage. Shomi decided to save the bride by throwing her shoes at the pirate leader. But it turned out the pirate attack was just a test to see if the groom truly loved the bride or not. After Shomi accidentally hurt the pirate leader's face, he wanted her to pay for it. However, the bride was so happy with the groom's response and how well the pirates acted that she gave them a big tip. The pirates left the ship, displaying an advertisement for an event organizer. That's when Shomi realized that the pirate leader was actually Yu Law, the person she was supposed to investigate for JK. Following the pirate incident, Shomi saw Yu Law being rude to others, and she thought he was a bad person. She showed her dislike for him and ignored him when he tried to talk to her. Later in a bar, Yu Law arrived with many attracted women. He approached Shomi and asked her something, but she remained silent. So Yu Law took off her headset, and they had a brief conversation. One of Yu Law's men, known as Chicken, came and asked him to go with him. Chicken informs Yu Law that their target has arrived. Yu Law has a habit of approaching women who are visiting the island and convincing them to stay at his resort to make more money. He tells these women a fake story about a lady named Shomi, who, when she was a child, was rescued by a fisherman after almost drowning. He claims that Shomi was ungrateful and separated the fisherman from his lover. Shomi, who overhears this fake story, gets angry and confronts Yu Law. However, Yu Law shuts her up and leaves. Later, Shomi wakes up from fainting and tells Yu Law that her wallet and passport are missing. She asks him for a job and a place to stay until she can afford to get her passport back and leave the island. Feeling sorry for her, Yu Law agrees to let Shomi work at his resort. Shomi takes on various tasks like cleaning toilets and serving guests. While she's serving guests, Yu Law calls her name. When Shomi doesn't respond, even though they're close, Yu Law gets irritated and almost throws a bottle at her. On the other hand, Shomi quietly started watching what Yu Law was up to. He was taking some resort guests somewhere to do a special ceremony. Shomi ended up falling asleep because Yu Law and the guests didn't come back for a while. The next day, Shomi noticed that Yu Law and the guests had returned, but she saw a lady crying in Yu Law's arms. This made Shomi suspicious. Then Shomi and Yu Law went shopping together, and Shomi noticed that Yu Law often moved his legs when he was confused or nervous. While Yu Law was calculating how much money he made that night, he saw Shomi sleepwalking. The following day, a couple named Sophie and Hao Chang planned to have their wedding at Yu Law's resort and rented the whole building, including the staff's rooms. Yu Law agreed, so he had his staff sleep in tents for a while. Shomi saw Yu Law checking the resort's financial records in the evening. When Yu Law had to leave his office briefly for some urgent business, Shomi sneaked into his office, checked the financial records, made copies, and sent them to her boss. After that, Shomi had a video call with her boss and told him that she would be going back to Beijing soon. However, her boss asked her to stay and continue her investigation. One night after Hao Chang had smoked, he sprayed air fresheners all around the room to hide the smell from Sophie. After he took a shower, he was surprised to find Shomi in his room. She had started sleepwalking again and ended up in Hao Chang's room. Just as Hao Chang was about to move Shomi, Sophie walked in and misunderstood the situation. She shouted, and when Yu Law heard her screams, he rushed to their room. Sophie and Hao Chang ended up having a big argument, and Sophie decided to call off their wedding. Yu Law got really angry and blamed Shomi for what happened. The next day, Yu Law and Shomi tried to get Sophie and Hao Chang back together and cancel their wedding cancellation. They arranged a romantic lunch for the couple and finally managed to reunite them. Yu-Law and Shami were so happy that they hugged each other without even realizing it. In the evening, Yu-Law and Shami celebrated their success by drinking on the beach. Yu-Law even tied a rope around Shami's hand to prevent her from sleepwalking again. Afterward, Yu-Law, Shami, and the rest of the staff got everything ready for Sophie and Hao Chang's wedding. Yu-Law even played the roles of the person who officiated the wedding for the happy couple. He didn't stop there. Yu-Law also became the chef in charge of preparing the food because he was really good at cooking. Hao Chang thanked all the guests and also expressed his gratitude to Yu-Law and his staff. During the wedding, when Hao Chang sang a song for his wife, Shami felt sad and left the reception. Yu-Law noticed and followed her, comforting her with a special drink called the Heart of the Ocean. Shami asked Yu-Law why he didn't just become a chef. He explained that his mother had left him this resort, and he was determined to manage it and turn it into one of the best resorts in the world. Hearing Yu-Law's life story, Shami wondered about his relationship with JK and why GK wanted to sue him. The next day, Shami contacted her boss again and asked about Yu-Law and JK, but her boss refused to give her any information and told her to continue her investigation. One day, Shami gets bothered by two men who are staying at the resort. Yu-Law comes to her rescue. It turns out that these two men work for JK. While Yu-Law is getting treated, Shami notices a tattoo on one of the men's arms with a woman's name on it. Yu-Law then takes Shami to a remote island where he used to perform special rituals with his guests. He leaves her there with only a torch and a blanket to keep warm. That night, in the freezing cold, Shami remembers her painful past and cries all night until she falls asleep. Yu-Law returns in the morning to pick her up. He explains that the purpose of the ritual is to leave their old selves behind on the island and return home with renewed hope and a fresh start. On the way back by boat, Shami says a prayer for her parents at the place where she almost drowned as a child. Because their ship ran out of fuel during their journey, Yu-Law had to stop at a nearby island to refuel. It just so happened that this island was controlled by JK, and coincidentally, JK was there too. When they met, Yu-Law discovered that Shami actually worked for JK. JK then reveals that Yu-Law and he are half-brothers, but Shami chooses to support Yu-Law. When Shami got back to the resort, Yu-Law still seemed upset with her. However, Hao Chang tells Shami that Yu-Law is genuinely concerned about her, even though he appears annoyed. Not long after, Yu-Law finally learned that Shami had never lost her wallet and passport when he accidentally found them in her tent. During a meeting with an important client, Chicken, who had betrayed him, secretly copied crucial data from Yu-Law's laptop. After Yu-Law returned, he offered to pay for Chicken and his girlfriend's wedding, making Chicken regret his disloyalty to his boss. A few days later, they announced the best resort in Southeast Asia, and Yu-Law's resort won. However, JK didn't accept it and accused Yu-Law of cheating. JK showed evidence and witnesses and accused Shami of spying for Yu-Law. Shami denied JK's claims and revealed that she couldn't hear with one ear at all and only had 30% hearing in the other ear. After proving this, the jury stuck with their decision and rejected JK's accusations. After this incident, Shami remembered the tough times she faced because of her hearing problems, including being dumped by her boyfriend just because she was deaf. So Shami decided to leave Yu-Law's resort. Yu-Law tried to convince her to stay, but Shami insisted on leaving. When they got to the dock, Chicken chased after Shami and gave her a flash drive with a personal note that Yu-Law had written about her. It turned out that Yu-Law had liked Shami since they first met when he was a pirate. He also knew she was deaf all along, as he had called out to her loudly, but she didn't hear him. Yu-Law realizes that Shami is deaf and couldn't hear Hao Chang's song at her wedding, so he tries to make her feel better by making her a special drink. During the ritual, Yu-Law stays with Shami all night to keep her company and protect her. After reading all of Yu-Law's writings about his feelings for her, Shami hurries back to the resort to see him. However, when she arrives, Yu-Law is already gone. Yu-Law's mother gives Shami a letter from Yu-Law. In the letter, Yu-Law expresses his determination to pursue his dream of becoming a chef. He also encourages Shami to be brave, be herself, and use hearing aids for her own benefit. Shami is moved to tears reading Yu-Law's letter, but it strangely brings her peace and courage to move forward in life. A year later, Shami has become a more confident woman and is not shy about wearing hearing aids, as Yu-Law suggested. She now works for a company in the investment sector. While shopping, Shami unexpectedly runs into Sophie, who invites her to celebrate her wedding anniversary at Yu-Law's resort. Shami seems to be considering the invitation. Later, one of Xiaomi's co-workers invites her to lunch at a new restaurant with a Heart of the Ocean menu. When Xiaomi hears the menu's name, it reminds her of Yu Law. At the restaurant, she discovers that the menu is indeed a selection of drinks that Yu Law created when she was at the resort. Xiaomi tries to find Yu Law in and around the restaurant, but can't locate him anywhere. Sophie and Hao Chang's wedding anniversary arrived at the Love Yu resort. Yu Law was also there and visited his mother, who is now the resort manager. Meanwhile, Xiaomi was on her way to the resort after a small incident at the market. Finally, Xiaomi and Yu Law reunited. When they talked, it came out that when Xiaomi almost drowned in the ocean, Yu Law was the first one to try and save her. But because Yu Law was just a kid at the time, he couldn't do it alone and his father helped. It turns out that Yu Law is the son of the fisherman who saved Xiaomi from drowning in the ocean. So the moral of the story is when life throws you pirate attacks, sleepwalking mishaps, and secret chefs, just remember, the best resorts are built on unexpected adventures and a dash of hearing aids.